Welcome to the Trading Bell Show. Now, the Project Management Institute held a 3-day conference here in Nairobi. So I managed to catch the MD, George Asamani, to understand why they came. But first, let's take a look at his profile, then get into the conversation. George Asamani is the Managing Director for PMI's Sub-Saharan Africa region. He's responsible for scaling the impact of PMI in Africa through chapter enablement, organizational development, sector partnerships, and social impact. He works with PMI's vast network to engage with corporate and educational institutions, offering solutions that develop skills and drive efficiency. George is also co-founder and entrepreneur mentor for London Business School's Excel Awards initiative, which supports early-stage entrepreneurs in Africa with grants, mentors, and access to international markets. George holds a BSc in Physics from King's College London and an MBA from London Business School. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Good to have you here. And
it's a pleasure.
You, I think on the sideline, you told me you're from Ghana. How is it in Kenya?
Kenya's nice. Very nice place.
Okay.
Of course, you guys are one of the beacons for Africa.
Yes.
So you're ready to welcome people, and it's very welcoming.
Welcome.
A little bit chilly, but hey, that's the West African in me who's complaining, but it's lovely.
It's lovely.
Absolutely lovely.
Welcome home.
Excuse the voice. We've had a very, very intense 3 days, so my eyes are puffy, voice is croaky, so apologies for that. Yeah.
No, great. And in fact, we could start the conversation on that. But before you tell me about the conference, maybe people will be curious. When you're talking about Project Management Institute, one of the key questions will be, what are your objectives and goals in the region, and what are you doing to achieve them?
Sure.
Yeah.
So PMI, Project Management Institute, we're a global organization behind the profession of project management. Project management is all about getting things done, things done well. You know, how do you get from A to Z in the best possible way, regardless of what your endeavor is? And so specifically in Africa, actually even across the world, but I speak in my capacity as Managing Director for PMI in Africa.
Yeah.
We focus on governments, private sector, so companies, and also the youth. Specifically with government, we work with government to support internal strengthening of government ability to deliver, because as I said, project management is all about delivering and delivering well.
Yeah.
And so working with government to support government internally to deliver, but also to support government so that government can create an environment where the skills within a country are developed. So the project management or the execution skills within a country are developed. So that's the government side of things.
Yeah.
With corporations or companies, most companies will have a strategy. A lot of the times that strategy is heavily dependent on successful delivery of projects. Yeah. So we have several customers and partners who are reliant on us to help them to do that. And then of course, thirdly, I mentioned the youth. Youth are critical in Africa. And so we have several initiatives where we partner with academic institutions, universities, TVETs, youth-serving not-for-profits to support upskilling in the youth space. So in a nutshell, really, our objective as PMI in Africa is to support the upskilling of project skills in Africa so that Africa can execute on its vision.
Wow, and we certainly need those particular skills. And I'm sure even governments would really want to embrace you more so that at least you can, bring in the skill to the people. I'm curious to know from your end, when you look at Africa at large, what is the state, if you were asked that question, what's the current state of our skill set? Yeah. And looking through, what do we need from your end when you have been into this particular field?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the state of Africa, is no surprises. We need the skills. Yeah. And actually, if I take a step back, if we're talking about project management globally, there is actually a deficit of project managers and project management skill set. We did some research not too long ago, and actually there's a large deficit in project management related jobs around the world. What that means is projects around the world, and in the case of Africa, because of the deficit, we are looking at delayed projects in the current state of affairs. We're looking at projects that are over budget. Sometimes, I heard just the other day, 300% over budget, which really doesn't make sense. And so the current state, to answer your question specifically in Africa, we're lacking almost 100,000 project management roles in Africa.
Wow.
this is what PMI in Africa, this is what we're trying to address. We're trying to address that skills gap, not only for now, but for the next 10, 20, 50 years and beyond. Because of course, as a continent, we're growing, and growth means projects.
You're right.
Right? So really, the future of Africa is heavily reliant on the projects, and with a deficit, our future is compromised.
I think I have a follow-up on that, and I'm curious to know, why do we have such a deficit, yet we sometimes pride ourselves as being, frontiers in terms of market forces. Our population is growing.
Yeah.
You talked about youth. We are
Yeah.
quite big in that, especially sector.
Yeah.
Is it that the profession is not attractive enough to the young generation,
Yeah.
or why do we have this state?
I think there are multiple factors. I think, for a long time, and this is, I'd say it's my personal opinion, for a long time, we focused on Africa's vision, our narrative, of course, strategy. Various government organizations, multilateral organizations, corporations have built their strategies and developed their strategies. It's the thing that you think about most, the idea, the emotion of it. Less so the actual execution. Putting your, as I say, putting your money where your mouth is, and getting things done. That's less, less nice, less quote unquote sexy. But the reality is nothing happens unless you focus on the delivery. Yeah. And so I think we just haven't focused on what does it actually mean to deliver. And so I think that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, when you look at the profession anyway, already project managers are people who just focus on getting things done. So I admit, I think we need to be more visible. We need to be more vocal. We need to also say, hey guys, we're here. We are going to support the translation of vision to execution. So there's work that we as PMI and project managers all around the continent need to do in terms of being more visible, so that when the conversations are happening, it's not just about the vision and the money, it's also about the execution and the project management.
Oh, you're right. Let's talk about the conference that you had, and I like the theme, let me quote it, "The Africa we want, together we can." And I'm curious what specific goals and outcomes that you came out with out of this conference.
Yeah. So we went with that theme because I think the second part answers the question, together we can. As we know, Agenda 2063, the African Union's strategy, is all about the Africa we want. And our position is we are here to support, together with the African Union, together with countries all across Africa, together with the African Development Bank, together with large and small organizations. Together we can achieve the Africa we want.
Very true.
We see ourselves, we being PMI, see ourselves as actually the people who can help to translate all these dreams into reality.
Okay.
And so specifically with the conference that we just had over the last 3 days, it was absolutely incredible because we had leaders from all sectors, government, private sector. We even had a youth element as well. And several things came out of that. One, which I think was very, very good, which is the recognition that actually this is the missing piece of the puzzle. That the project management, which translates the vision into reality, is the missing piece of the puzzle. So I think that was a huge success, because as I mentioned, project managers typically just have their heads down and deliver. But there needs to be visibility at the vision and the strategy stage as well. So that's for me, that's the number one success. In addition to that, actually specific conversations around the state of affairs. So I remember one specific panel about public-private partnerships, and we're analyzing how that works across Africa. And the conclusion was that, look, PPP is good, despite that a lot of the time it's foreign-led. So what we need to do is maybe as Africans negotiate a little bit better, so that the terms are, so that everybody wins. And then also just make sure that we're focusing on the right objectives when it comes to some of these public-private partnerships. Other discussions were around looking at the youth. So as I mentioned, we partner with youth organizations, academic organizations, specifically universities and TVETs, also youth serving non-for-profits. So we had a representation from the University of Nairobi. We had the CEO of Junior Achievement. We had Fred Swaneker, who's the founder of the African Leadership Group, speaking around what they're doing in the youth space, the impact on Africa. And I can tell you, if when what they're doing starts to bear fruit, we're going to see really Africa move forward in a big way.
Yeah, and I know giving you just a few seconds to summarize 3 days of a conference is quite it's quite unfair, I know.
Exactly.
But let's talk about Africa in general,
Yes.
and this is just a peer-to-peer kind of thought of what do we need to do to be the market leaders when it comes to project management? Because, as you have alluded, we have what it takes, and we can be those market particular leaders, and especially, bring ourselves up to the global powerhouse. In your current state, what do you think would be our competitive advantage to be that powerhouse?
Yeah. If potential is a competitive advantage, then that's our competitive advantage.
We have the potential.
Our potential is incredible. Very soon, in the next several years, we'll have the largest workforce in the world.
You're right.
Not only will it be the largest, it'll also be the youngest, meaning that it'll be the most energetic, it'll be the most innovative. And so, for me, that's absolutely incredible. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
But the issue is its potential. It's opportunity. It's not yet realized. And the only way to realize it is for us right now to convert this potential into reality. And skills, project management skills, other skills like digital skills, those are absolutely critical for us to embed in our African DNA right now.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why we're speaking with governments across Africa and multilateral organizations in Africa, because those institutions are best positioned to help to integrate this into the DNA and into the culture of Africa, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. And I'm curious to know how you're also aligning with what is happening around the region. For example, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the likes. How are you aligning with these particular initiatives?
Yeah.
Lovely. And I'm curious to know how you're also aligning with what is happening around the region. For example, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the likes. How are you aligning with these particular initiatives?
Yeah. So at the moment, specifically with that initiative, it's early days.
Yeah.
We're looking at conversations in terms of, okay, how can we support, what can we do? So it's still quite early. But the vision is, as I mentioned earlier, it's to support the skills within the organization, in this case, the African Union, and then also helping the institution the institution to help to provide capacity or increase capacity across the continent.
Okay, lovely. Let's talk about job growth and talent gap reports. I mean, there's a report that was released from your end, and it said that employers will need 23 million individuals in project management-oriented roles by 2030. I wanted you to clarify if this demand is primarily just global or just in Africa, and whether we are adequately prepared to meet this demand.
Right. So that's 23 million.
By 2030.
By 2030.
Wow.
So a deficit of 23 million project managers who work in project-related work. That's global.
Okay.
And so that's why it's not just in Africa where projects are delayed or failing or over budget. That's not just in Africa, it's around the world. And so this is actually PMI's focus, Project Management Institute. This is our focus, that we can make an impact in the success of the world by addressing this skills gap.
Okay.
And so in that same report, when you look at Africa, the Africa deficit is about 100,000.
Okay.
But my fear is because of Africa's growth, actually the deficit is likely to be higher than that or grow quite rapidly.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of work to do to make sure we address that, but then keep increasing the number of project managers or keep increasing our project management capacity.
So from your perspective, any young person watching and is wondering which career should I think of, project management should be one of it.
Project management is an incredible skill to have because it's a transferable skill. It's about getting things done.
Okay.
So getting things done in construction, getting things done in software engineering, getting things done in music production. In fact, if you look at music production, just 2 weeks ago, Burna Boy was top of UK charts.
Yeah.
Right? What did it take to get to that? What does it take to have an incredible concert where you're selling out Madison Square Garden and selling out the O2? Project management is exceptionally critical in that. What does it take to build the largest oil refinery, single train oil refinery in the world. If you look at what Dangote has just done, that's project management is integral to that. So you cannot lose if you invest in a career in project management.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to throw this in because when I told someone I'm coming to speak on this particular subject, they said, but local project managers are paid peanuts. When people come from other continents, they're paid like, I don't know what. Have you had these kind of things? Were these things that came up in the conference?
No, you know what, that comes up. The interesting thing is, I'm not sure why it is, but sometimes on our continent we feel that we can manage it. We don't really need the formal qualification. We don't really need to get the international certifications. We can manage. But then you get somebody who's coming with the international formalized qualifications like a PMP or CAPM, and they are recognized above the local who maybe has the experience but doesn't have the globally recognized certification. And so that's one of the things that my team is trying to do in PMI Africa, is to say, look, for these international projects, let's try to make sure that we're providing the opportunities for Africans actually also to have the certifications, so that they're on par with with international counterparts, so that essentially they have an equal stake, an equal opportunity to execute projects in Africa. And for me, actually, we talked about the growth of Africa, growth of population. I think we have an incredible opportunity to flip it, where that actually project managers, because of our size of our population, we can have a large population of skilled project managers who are actually going out to deliver excellent projects outside of Africa. If you look at what India did with IT, we can do the same with project management.
All right. Lovely. And I like the example. Any initiatives and specific collaborations that you're engaging in?
Yeah, there are many. So, for example,
mention one or two.
One or two. In the government space, we partnered with the government of Senegal. The government of Senegal has an incredible vision for Senegal. They have a project management center of excellence in terms of how they will execute this vision. And so, we are working with them. The entity is called BOSS. So it's the government delivery unit for Senegal. And so we are working with them to help to look at, how can we improve and ensure successful execution of Senegal's government plan. Other examples are Ministry of Infrastructure of Public Works in South Africa, specifically an entity called the SACP-CMP. So this is the regulator in South Africa responsible for projects in construction. We partnered with them to ensure that actually there's an improved construction project management capability in South Africa. And then various organizations, I mentioned African Leadership Academy and the group, Junior Achievement, and then Airtel here, actually Airtel Africa, they're one of our key partners as well. So we're all across the continent, working across different sectors, trying to make an impact.
Great. I was waiting for you to mention something in Kenya.
In Kenya, well, I thought I knew there was something.
There's something, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. As we come to a close of this conversation, let's talk about your future outlook at PMI and what you're looking at in your operations here in the region. What are you looking at in your office?
I think really, the future of PMI, and in fact, how we've already started is to serve our continent, to create capacity in our continent. As a continent grows, my team will grow so that we can, continue to provide more and more support for governments, for corporations, and academic institutions. Just putting you on the spot, is there one or two particular projects that you guys are proud of, looking at it as a driven initiative that PMI members or PMI was really involved in to ensure this was it in Africa? Any example you could give? I don't want to get killed by by showing favoritism. Some of the ones I've just mentioned they've been phenomenal. There's projects in the government space. The Senegal guys I'm really proud of. I'm proud of everyone we work with, really. There are a lot of exciting successes. I'll finalize by asking you,
there could be government persons watching, especially who like watching this particular show here in Kenya. Is there a message you want to deliver to them so that at least we can have, project management in this country as well, embedded, like what we're hearing with what you're doing with other countries?
Absolutely. In the last 12 months in Africa, we had just over 3,000 people formally certified in project management. Formally certified.
Formally certified.
Yeah, that's 3,000.
Wow.
In the same time in the US is 30,000.
Oh, okay.
In the same time in China, it's 100,000.
Oh.
So 3,000, 30,000, 100,000.
We're just a drop.
Exactly. And what's the difference? The difference is that in US and China, the governments have policies in place to ensure that project management is being embedded nationally, embedded in government, embedded in with the general public. And so the example of China actually supports its individuals to become certified. So I think to answer your question, for any government people who are watching this, we need to look at what can the government do to make it easier for Africa to increase its skill set in the capacity place. So that's looking at policy. What policies can we put in place? And then also funding. What funding can be put in place to support the development of project management capacity in Africa?
You're right.
Yeah.
George Asamani, I hope I'm pronouncing it well.
Yes, that's fine.
Excellent. It's great to have you on the show.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And you said something, by the way, that everything we touch is a project.
Everything touches a project.
There you have it, guys. Everything you touch is a project. So don't think that this is not my line, because everything you're touching is a project. That's George Asamani, the MD right here at the Project Management Institute, Sub-Saharan Africa. And they just had a great 3-day conference, and you've heard it from yourselves. So I hope you've gotten your takeout. I leave you now with the markets.